Welcome to the Man of Recaps. These are the Best Picture nominees for the Oscars 2019. I've watched them all, so you don't have to, and you can still sound smart in front of your friends. First up is Roma. It's a black and white, artsy foreign language film, so I know you didn't watch this one. It follows a housekeeper back in 1970s Mexico, and it's pretty light on plot. It's more of a day in the life type thing, so at any given time, there is nothing interesting happening on screen. Basically, she meets a guy, and he demonstrates his epic naked bow staff skills. This move has never worked for me, but apparently she's into it. She gets pregnant, and he's like, oh, that's cool, baby. I'm gonna get some popcorn. Be right back. And we have to sit through the whole end of this movie within a movie while he never comes back, so she's sad. The family she works for goes to their country house for Christmas where there's a forest fire, and this guy dressed as Bigfoot sings for about 2 minutes. Not sure what that symbolizes. Eventually, the maid goes to her baby daddy's karate class where Ponytail Nacho Libre is teaching. Apparently, it's very difficult to stand on one leg with your eyes closed. But anyway, the guy makes it clear he wants nothing to do with her or the baby. Eventually, she gives birth, and we get to watch it in real time, so 30 minutes later, it turns out the baby's stillborn and she's sad again. Family she works for goes on a beach vacation, and the kids are dumb, so she has to swim out and save them. And then she realizes that even though she doesn't have her own kids, she's part of this family and I guess finds happiness, and that's how Roma ends. For my mini review, let me say that the movie opens with 4 minutes of a close-up shot of someone mopping the floor, and these are some of the more interesting minutes of the movie. I can only assume this director and all the critics are trolling us, unless it's actually a brilliant satire of boring artsy foreign language black and white films, in which case, maybe it's amazing. Next up is The Favorite. It's basically Mean Girls set in jolly old England. Queen Anne is not much of a queen, so her BFF Rachel Weisz basically runs the kingdom. One day her cousin Emma Stone shows up, and her family's lost all their money, so she needs a job, and Rachel Weisz takes her under her wing, but Emma soon discovers that Rachel keeps the queen favor with some smooching, so she starts courting the queen's favor by petting her bunnies and then petting her bunny. So the two girls compete to be the queen's favorite for a while, until eventually Emma Stone poisons Rachel's tea. With her out of the way, Emma Stone is running the kingdom for a while. Eventually Rachel makes it back, but Emma Stone fabricated that she was stealing or something, so she's kicked out. Emma wins everything, but Queen Anne is very annoying to be around, so it's not all that great for her. My mini review, well, there's a lot of fun times. There's a lot of boring times too, though. It'd be better if it were about an hour shorter. Next up is Vice. It's a pseudo-documentary style about Dick Cheney, vice president to George W. Bush, and it was the White House's worst kept secret, but Dick Cheney was the one really calling the shots. The main thing about this movie is that he's played by Christian Bale. Yeah, that's Batman. Long story short, he flunks out of Yale for partying too much, but his girlfriend kicks him into shape, so he gets an internship with Congress where he meets Michael Scott. Yeah, that's Steve Carell playing Donald Rumsfeld. Rummy takes Cheney under his wing, and long story short, they rise the ranks real quick. Cheney has a great decade in Congress, being an ultra-conservative douchebag, but when the numbers come in that he's not good enough to run for president, he retires from politics and becomes CEO of Halliburton, the oil company. Years later, George W. needs a vice president, and Cheney's like, I'll do it if you let me actually run everything. George is like, yeah, that's perfect for me. So Cheney is not so secretly running the country behind the scenes, and eventually 9/11 happens. Cheney and his oil buddies had already made plans of how to divvy up Iraq in case they ever got to invade, and this was a great opportunity. So Cheney handpicked the sketchy evidence that barely linked the 9/11 attacks to Iraq and undisputably tricked America into going to war there, accidentally creating ISIS in the process. My mini review, it was just okay, a kind of fun watch, especially if you're interested in politics and history. Christian Bale playing Dick Cheney, though, incredibly impressive. Next up is Black Klansmen. A young black guy becomes the first black police officer in Colorado Springs. They send him undercover with his partners Steve Buscemi and Kylo Ren. At first, they have him watching the black community, making sure they don't get violent, but then he sees an ad in the newspaper recruiting for the Ku Klux Klan. He decides to do his best white guy voice and pretend to join. Obviously, he can't meet them in person, so Adam Driver pretends to be him at meetings while he keeps working him over the phone, and together they find out a lot of info on him. Long story short, they discover a bomb plot and are able to stop it before it hurts anyone, so he saved the day. But of course, the Klan survives, and to this day in 2018, the same kind of hate is still happening. It's sad. My mini review, this one was a great watch, a good balance of comedy and drama with some really important underlying themes. Now it's The Green Book. Also in the 1970s, dealing with racism, Aragorn is a bouncer in New York. The club he works at is closed for renovations this summer, so first he joins a hot dog eating contest to make some money, but then he gets a driver/bodyguard gig for this black concert pianist who's going on a tour of the South. The Green Book is the travel guide that tells you what hotels black people are allowed to stay at. At first they have this odd couple thing going on, white versus black, but also fancy educated versus, street smarts. Eventually they bond over fried chicken, which everyone can agree is delicious, and they become best friends. The pianist faces racism, both gentle and violent, but Tony Lip's got his back, and at the final concert, when they won't let him eat at the restaurant where he's playing, Tony convinces him to bail. They go next door to the black bar where he plays the best concert of his life, then brings him home for Christmas dinner and they live happily ever after. My mini review, a real solid movie. A lot of fun moments along the way and a powerful message about embracing commonalities instead of differences. And of course, Viggo Mortensen and Mahershala Ali, fantastic actors. Now it's Black Panther, the one you've actually seen. King T'Challa is the Black Panther, a superhero who dresses like a cat. He's king of Wakanda, a poor African nation, but secretly it's a super advanced society because they've got vibranium deep in their ground. His dad recently died, so before he's officially king, they have the whole challenge ceremony. Long story short, Michael B. Jordan shows up. He's the long-lost cousin. His dad was the king's brother who was a traitor, so he grew up alone in America. Now he's back to claim the throne. They have an epic fight, and oh, he wins, throws T'Challa off the waterfall. And even though this is a crazy outdated tradition, rules are rules, Killmonger's now king. His plan is to liberate black people around the world, which sounds good, but he's gonna do it by conquering the world, so not so good. The royal family escaped with Bilbo Baggins. They find T'Challa on ice and feed him the Black Panther flower, so boom, Black Panther's back. He busts in to reclaim his kingdom, and one-on-one fight, stabs him. But it's kind of a sad victory because he really understands Killmonger's motivations, so he takes him up to see the Wakandan sunset, and he decides that Wakanda will help black people around the world, but in a peaceful way. My mini review, well, it's awesome. If you don't love the Marvel movies, I mean, you should. It seems crazy that a superhero movie could win Best Picture, but it has a lot of complex themes and deep characters and is just, probably the most entertaining. Next up, it's Bohemian Rhapsody, the story of Freddie Mercury, the lead singer of Queen. Freddie was blessed with an incredible voice and maybe even more importantly, an incredible stage presence. Eventually, Littlefinger comes and signs them and boom, Queen is a big hit. They eventually record Bohemian Rhapsody, which everyone's skeptical about because it's a 6-minute crazy rock opera, but of course it becomes a classic and is incredibly popular. Freddie proposes to his girlfriend. Wait a minute, isn't Freddie Mercury of Queen famously gay? Yeah, he eventually figures that out. So he and his wife agree to be just friends and he goes full-on gay rock star party mode. His new manager/boyfriend manipulates him into quitting the band and he starts partying way too hard, yes, eventually gets the AIDS. So he fires that guy, apologizes to his band, and Queen reunites for an awesome Save Africa concert. And the way the movie portrays it, Queen played so good, they basically saved Africa. My mini review, Bohemian Rhapsody is very mediocre. It wants to be an awesome rock and roll epic like Almost Famous, but it just doesn't quite have the heart. And as a straight biopic, it's kind of boring. I think it would have been a lot better as a rock and roll fantasy like the new Elton John movie coming out. And finally, it's your mom's favorite, A Star is Born. Director Bradley Cooper is a rock star. After a show one day, he stops by a random local bar for a drink because he is an alcoholic, and turns out Lady Gaga is singing the open mic night. He's instantly smitten, and they have an incredible impromptu first date where she sings an original song she wrote that you've heard on the radio about swimming in the deep end. He brings her to his next concert and has her come out on stage and sing her song, and she kills it. She joins him on tour and they fall in love. He proposes with a little guitar string. It's super romantic. She blows up with her own singing career and soon is just as big a star as him. She wins the Grammy for Best New Artist, but Bradley still has a drinking problem, and that night he is pissed drunk, literally pees his pants on stage. But she loves him and stands by him, so he goes to rehab and soon they're reunited. She wants them to tour together, but her manager's like, no way, so she cancels her tour to be with the one she loves. But he realizes he's holding her down now, and he's a real tortured artist type anyway, so he decides to kill himself. No! Out of nowhere, this happy singing movie is making me cry all over the place, and Gaga ends the movie with a super sad emotional tribute song. My mini review, it's great. Gaga and Bradley Cooper bring a ton of emotion to their characters, and it's a real nice love story with some great singing, and it'll make you cry at the end. There you have it, the Best Picture nominees for the 2019 Oscars. I know you guys are having a hard time finding a host this year. It's short notice, but I'm available. I've got the tux ready to go.